Welcome to In the Hot Seat with the Tenney Group. I'm Spencer Tenney. It's good to be with you. Today, I have a very exciting guest, someone who's been doing tremendous things in 2022 and probably a lot more to come in 2023. With us, CEO of Ascend, Michael McLary. Michael, welcome to the Hot Seat.
Hey, Spencer. Good to see you. And a Happy New Year.
Well, thank you to you, sir, and same to you. Before we heat things up, just tell us a little bit about Ascend and what your role is over there.
Sure. Actually, I'll rewind to give you some background on myself. I've been in transportation for over 30 years. Spent a big chunk of that at UPS, holding a variety of positions. Was the head of strategy, global head of strategy. Ended up working on the Coyote Logistics acquisition. Post that, went over to Amazon, helped build out the Amazon truckload brokerage business. And while at Amazon, saw this need for these smaller regional truckload businesses to provide higher quality service that just weren't being met, and put together an investment thesis with a few other industry vets to go raise some capital and build out a new middle mile truckload transportation business. That was back in 2019. We locked arms with a private equity group up in New York called Wellspring Capital. Ran hard at our first deal, which was Mylan Supply Chain Solutions, and bought them as the platform with the anticipation of building out a better network, putting some technology to use, leveraging some of the brokerage skills that I've learned over the years, and then acquiring companies in various geographic regions, focusing specifically on that dry van space where we could build density and create a better mousetrap that results in more hometown time for drivers as well as a better service quality for shippers. So anyway, long story short, we knew COVID was going to hit, of course, as everybody else did. And so, post that first acquisition coming into 2020, experienced all the trials and tribulations that other carriers faced in, through that period. But we're able to grow the business, solidify the platform, invest in technology, get our core set where we were comfortable with speeding up acquisitions, and then in 2021 really started to hit the accelerator, rebranded under the Ascend name. We've acquired a handful of companies, did one most recently with the Tenney Group, a great experience with your team, Spencer. But we're really trying to be pragmatic about where we grow, how we grow, both on the organic front and inorganic front. So maybe that was a long intro, but just some background for you and for everybody else.
Well, we'll take it, and let's just jump right in from there. So let me just kind of back up to the, how you and I got connected. So I don't even know when it was. Maybe 18 months ago, you and I are kind of co-doing a webinar with Workout, and we're talking about driver retention. Now, I know that's a big part of your investment thesis in terms of that experience. So how do you think about driver retention, especially in this market, possibly coming into a difficult economic climate? How do you think about driver retention right now?
Yeah, so I think it's a struggle for the industry. To me, drivers are part of our people-first culture, so we want to take care of every driver. We over-communicate. We make them part of the family. Workhound we were an early-stage Workhound investor and customer. And we believe in the product because it gives the drivers a voice to come back and tell us where their problems are, which I think sometimes get overlooked. In terms of drivers themselves, in 2019, when we built out the investment thesis, one of the big premises was home time. And drivers want flexibility, especially on over-the-road, irregular route freight. They don't necessarily like to always be out. And they sometimes need to pivot and do a different job. So one thing that we do with Over the Road, we run a lot of relays, which hence why we want to piece together lots of different middle mile trucking companies so we can relay freight, leverage our technology. But we also offer a dedicated division. We do yard hustling. And so we allow our drivers to flex up and down depending on their needs. We had a driver recently who called me and said, "Hey, gosh, I've been running with you guys for 12 years. Unfortunately, my wife has cancer and I need to stay home, but so I need to resign." I said, "No, you don't." So we moved him into a yard hustling job close to his house. He's much happier. And then you have some drivers who say, "I've been running dedicated for 5 years. I want to get out on the road and I want to see the country." And we offer them that ability to flex out into an over-the-road position. So I think having that creativity, flexibility, friendliness, offering lots of different options for drivers keeps them happy, keeps them wanting to come back and leverage the Ascend brand and become part of our family. And so that's how we really try to address the driver churn issue.
Well, I love how it's all interconnected, and a lot of you being able to deliver some of that value depends on building out that network, which you did a very good job in 2022. So tell us about the acquisitions that Ascend completed, and why are you so excited
sure.
about it?
So we bought a company out of Greenville, South Carolina called Dedicated Transportation Solutions, which is now Ascend Dedicated. They have 18 different sites throughout the U.S. They run really private fleet for a bunch of big brand names. We like them a lot because their geography overlapped with our existing network. They have the same principles of us: people first, a very friendly culture. That I think culture is one thing that we haven't talked about. Culture kills strategy. You can have two companies with two entirely different cultures, and you try to push them together, and the antibodies react, and it doesn't work out that well. So I think when we're looking at acquisition, Spencer, we look at, is there a good fit with the people? Is there a good fit with the geography? And in this case, those dedicated locations had their customers had over-the-road needs. They had brokered needs. So bringing the rest of the suite of Ascend services and products back to their customer base allowed us to naturally expand organically. So that was the first one, Dedicated Transportation Solutions. Then we added a company called Fuchs out of Sauk City, Wisconsin. We've got a lot of freight coming in and out of the Midwest, not a lot of coverage. The Fuchs network, they've got a great terminal, fantastic maintenance department. Again, people-friendly culture. Jay, who's their president, he and I hit it off right away. Again, back to that culture is so important when you're looking at doing acquisitions. And they filled a nice hole in our network where we needed some additional coverage. We now have a nice driver base where we can pull some of our. We don't always have to, potentially deadhead out of an area. We've got customer freight that we can service, and the more customer freight that we can get, the more drop and hook freight we can get, the happier our drivers.
I love that. And ditto on Jay. What a
great
good guy. So I think we can agree we're kind of shifting into a new market relative to what we've experienced, both from the freight standpoint, but also from an M&A standpoint coming into 2023. So how do you expect this to affect your acquisition strategy or your target kind of acquisition profile over the next 12 months?
So if I think about, we want to buy good companies. We're not. There are some firms that are great at buying distressed assets and fixing them and or modifying them to be more profitable. I mean, I really like the notion of you take two good companies, you get 1 + 1 = 3. I think we do have somewhat of a reset where earnings are normalizing. So we're willing to pay a fair price. We think about operating cash flow rather than EBITDA. I know that's always controversial, but to me, it's how much cash can you generate. And then we think about the synergies. And you take a good company and what can we provide them, similar to DTS. We were able to offer them additional products, and it's really a partnership. If you find companies that want to partner and they've grown to the levels that they think they've kind of maxed out and they're looking for that next step, if they come and partner with us, we together can find ways to continue to grow and provide better solutions to customers. When I think about 2023, back to the earnings kind of normalizing, we had a great period in 22. I think costs have gone up for everybody, and that obviously impacts your net income. But we're going to continue to be aggressive. I mean, we've built a nice war chest, and we'll be patient. We want to find the right deals. Again, back to people, culture, strategic fit. We've got a formula on how we think that works. Some people might think it's wrong, but it works for us. We're very focused, and we want to pay a fair value, and I think that works out for both parties.
I agree. Now, one of the things that, now this is my theory, but I think it's played out, that, part of your value proposition as a buyer, you and I have discussed, it has, in some ways, talks about, a certainty of close, which is a huge deal for a lot of sellers that are anxious about getting locked up in a long process that might be a distraction to their primary business. So how do you and your team think about when you're trying to make your case for Ascend as a buyer? You said you're going to be aggressive. That doesn't mean that you're going to be paying the most, but what are some of the other things that you present, like, hey, this is what we're about, and what ultimately allows you to differentiate from other buyers?
We've got a very tight diligence process, and then we want to make sure we integrate quickly as well. When I look at a deal, and I've done M&A all the way back to my UPS days. I've seen what works and what doesn't work, and seen what works and doesn't work for us. I think it's being fair. If you want to get lawyers involved and start with a very buyer-friendly purchase agreement, it never works out that well. We try to go into opportunities and deals at least on the diligence side, saying, look, we're going to give you the same employment agreements, the same purchase agreements that we've done with everybody else. We're not going to try to be so buyer-centric. It should be more seller and buyer-friendly. That speed to close, that certainty to say, one, we don't have to worry about debt financing. So when we go into a deal, we're pretty comfortable with being able to close, which I think is a differentiator. Two, we've got a process, and that that process is a 60-day, 90-day window, and we want to tighten that up as much as possible, because the biggest problem with a deal when you're a seller is doing the deal. You can't work on the business. You're so busy trying to get reports together and worrying about what one lawyer's saying and the other lawyer's saying. I want it to be a partnership, and I'd welcome anyone to talk to anyone. We've done it, Jay or Scott Jay at Fuchs or Scott at DTS, and we really work together to try and find common ground and make the process as seamless as possible. With us providing a lot more resources, just because our head of M&A, he's probably looked at over 100 deals, and he's done a bunch in the truckload dry van space. So, we really want to be supportive and make it part of that partnership. So it is a lot less painful. And Spencer, I'm sure you've seen some craziness go on in the M&A space.
Well, that's why we stay in the business. It's always entertaining. So now remind me, you guys have been growing fast. What's the truck count on Ascend?
Yeah, we're about 1,400 units.
Okay. So moving into 2023, you guys have grown extremely fast since 2019, whenever you guys really started humming. As you look across the broader industry, what do you see happening in terms of the competitive landscape, given the current environment? What's it going? It's
hard to tell because no one has that crystal ball, and Spencer, you and I have talked about macro. It's everyone's got their own opinion. So there's a demand side, which I don't think we know. On the supply side, I think that The medium size and smaller size carriers are really struggling. Costs have definitely increased. If I look at insurance, driver pay, equipment, asset costs, any vendor, everyone's trying to make a little bit more, and we've got a disconnect between rates, especially on the spot side, going down and costs going up, and it just can't. It's just not sustainable. We're seeing a lot. We've got an independent contractor program that was pretty stagnant in late 21 and 22. And at the end of 22, we've seen this influx of the owner-operators or independent contractors that went out on their own that were making a ton of money. And now they're like, wait a second, I can't make anything. So I think we're going to see some supply move out of the market. And it just needs to. I mean, we've got to firm up rates so everyone can make a little bit of money. So I think we've got some issues on the cost side and issues on rates just coming down so fast that it's just not sustainable for businesses. And what does that mean on the M&A front? I think back to my point on, companies that are in the M&A market will continue to pay a fair market value. We're just seeing that net income is normalizing back to pre-pandemic levels. And so on that capacity side, I think we'll see capacity come out and firm up a little bit. And then on the demand side, we're hoping that that buyers will continue to buy and supply chains will continue to move, which I think they will.
Well, agree. Well, I've got one more wild card question for you, Michael. One of the things I enjoy, if you don't already follow Michael on LinkedIn, you should. I think he's got all kinds of nuggets here and there from a leadership or what have you. But I'm curious, who would you say what leader, corporate or otherwise, has had a profound influence on your life?
That's a loaded question because it could go back to people that I've worked with in the past, who I would say are tremendous leaders, to people back in history that have really led the country through, or led different countries or businesses through tough periods. So it's hard for me to really pinpoint one that I could say right now that one person had the biggest influence on me. If I want to be honest, throughout my career, I've got a leader at UPS that I'll probably not name right here because I don't want to upset anybody else, but they had a real profound impact on my ability to lead, and always putting people first, making sure that people know they're the most important aspect of a business. It's not just numbers. And if any of you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that I'm constantly referencing back to people and how can we make sure people have that flexibility and realize they're important to every aspect of a business. So, I hate to just pinpoint it on one person.
No, well, hey, listen, well, no doubt you are certainly taking that advice and paying it forward, because we see it across through your networks of influence. And just want to encourage you, keep up the great work, what you're doing across the supply chain, what you're doing from a leadership standpoint. It's been a privilege. Thank you for being on the hot seat, sir. We will see you next time.